Hi there. So, in today's video, I'd like to begin an introduction on the topic of healing from addictions and really any addiction, whether it's a substance addiction to a substance which is inherently harmful, or whether it's got to do with um, disordered relationship with something that is healthy and the right when there's a healthy relationship with it, like food, for example, or sleep. And sometimes those addictions can be even more confusing because it's not simple enough just to stop them, or get help to stop them because it's actually something that we need. We just need to change our relationship with it to one that is healthy. Um, so the first thing that I really want to say today is, this is why holding ourselves in compassion is really at the core of this work. It's not really possible to change things, especially things that touch on such deep core body processes, and that a lot of times these things are also connected to very early dysregulation in the nervous system, often pre-verbal or from memories that we can't necessarily reconjure up with our conscious mind, but they're more implicit, they're more body memories, and associations, sometimes often happening usually unconsciously. And in order to actually unwind these things and become free of them, it sometimes does require going through a period of time in which our body is feeling some of the intensity of whatever it was feeling at the time early on, and that can feel extremely uncomfortable and make it feel impossible to get out of these cycles, and they feel chronic and we feel powerless. Um, and so, in addition to getting support and getting help, someone to really hold your hand through making such deep changes in your life, it's really important to start with this understanding that it's not your fault, okay? It's not your fault. You know, our bodies are amazing and wise, and even though they can be behaving in ways that feel unhealthy to us now and that we would like to change because they've become bad habits, it's important to understand that the original mechanism had good intention. There was something that was trying to be taken care of, some need that was trying to be filled, or some explanation that was trying to be made about why something was occurring that we were experiencing that was overwhelming and confusing in some way that was not what we needed. Um, and that's extremely common in our day and age. We live in what one of my teachers calls the age of disintegration. Um, others have called it by other names. Joanna Macy calls it the Great Unraveling. Other teachers have pointed, like Bill Plotkin has pointed to this culture that we're in as, the one, like it's been several generations of loss of connection with an intact uh, structure of adults and elders, of truly spiritual, mature humans. And so there's a lack of certain kind of stability and upbringing that's not happening. Even when our parents are trying their best and our teachers are trying their best and our doctors are trying their best and our mentors are trying their best, there happens to be a large cultural gap. And so even if we had amazing parents, and a lot of times when we have these addictions, there were blind spots and traumas of their own that they carried over. But even if we did have amazing parents, it's hard to kind of grow up in this day and age in the modern post-colonial world without some kind of feeling of there being a missing place, um, a soul loss kind of feeling. If it's not happening in a more direct way, like through nourishment or through health or through relationships or any apparent way, it might be happening in a larger sense as well, a feeling of not being fully connected to one's deep sense of place in the world from a more soulful perspective. So I bring this context to help add and validate this idea that it's not your fault, okay? It's not your fault. Um, and especially, there are periods of time when we are growing and we are doing the work and we're actually making progress and gaining traction on our healing journey. Um, there are moments sometimes where it feels like, oh, I'm making progress. Wow, I'm making progress. I'm seeing results. And then we hit these points sometimes where it's like, uh, maybe none of this was real. I'm having this old familiar feeling of depression, powerlessness, of craving for something that I know is not good for me, um, of doubt, wondering, maybe I really can't make it. I can't be successful at this thing I've been working so hard for. And just kind of a feeling of like sort of it's like a freeze experience in the nervous system. And, just like all of the emotions and survival responses need to have the space to be felt and moved through the body, so does freeze. So does that blah and that blankness and that dullness. And so if you're feeling that way, and then if you're feeling the cravings too, if addiction is somehow woven into your freeze response in some way, you might not be able to prevent yourself from going back to a behavior pattern that you've used as a coping strategy for freeze in the past. And that's okay. The thing about having compassion for yourself is that you can then also approach whatever happens with curiosity. You can be a little more present as you're indulging in the craving or the pattern. You can take away the feeling of shame. And because we really want to learn how to shift patterns from a place of core intrinsic motivation and courage. And there's a real different feeling to that than just avoid, 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 and then whiplash back into something and then feel a lot of shame for doing it. It's kind of like, well, if we can actually break that cycle by breaking the shame and be curious, maybe even ask the question, what is this serving for me? And especially if it's something that's not harming anybody else or ourselves in a very real way. And I want to make a disclaimer that if it is something very intense, like a substance or self-harming behavior or suicidal thoughts, then definitely get support with this, like professional support. But if it's something more benign, and it might not feel benign because it's an addiction and it's intense, but something like wanting to eat more than you actually need to eat, or something like wanting to binge watch a show and knock it up and fold your laundry, or something like, it's so different for each of us, right? Because we all have different ways that we avoid what balance is. So I almost don't even want to give too many examples because I don't want to give the wrong impression. For some people, things that we would even consider healthy, like exercise. Like for one client who really needs to have the courage to start moving their body more, I would not say the same thing as I would to a client who's actually overactive and kind of not allowing themselves to have rest in their life. It's a very different scenario. But what I'm trying to say is that in that moment, we can be curious. And even if we're not getting an answer right away as to why it is that our body and our nervous system chose to attach to a particular behavior pattern, whether that's clinging to a behavior pattern or avoiding something good, um, whatever, however it manifests, even if we don't get an immediate answer as to why we developed that coping strategy to be able to start to, and that's, by the way, something that can be worked on safely also with a coach like myself, we can at least hold this field of curiosity of, well, I might not know why my body is craving this, and I know I feel shame about it, but I wonder if I could just hold some curiosity about what it is that my being deeply has needed a long time ago, whenever this behavior pattern started, or that I still need now, some longing, something that has felt out of my reach, something that has felt missing, that this is serving. And maybe I can even just appreciate that this human body, this nervous system, this physical human experience incarnated is is trying, is reaching for something or avoiding something that could be harmful, that it sees as harmful. It's trying to take care of me. And it might be misguided in what that looks like, because maybe it doesn't know of any other options except this one. But if we can at least just see those impulses as trying to take care of us in some way and open up just a tiny window of curiosity, help get some space in there so that the shame isn't all encompassing and overwhelming. That can be a very good beginning step. And even if it doesn't break the addiction right away, it can add a little space in our nervous system to start to feel a little bit more sense of possibility and freedom. So I hope that this was supportive. And of course, this is actually something I really love to support my clients with. If you're interested in any coaching around this area, feel free to reach out. I offer free somatic assessments over the phone to see if we're a fit to work together and to give you a little nugget of something that could be supportive with no obligation that you do go forward. Um, and that link is below. And take very good care. See you next time.